I am now live streaming. So have you got your pulse on my?
Well, I'm trying to see if I don't see it yet, but there it
Up.
goes. There it goes. Yep. You're there. Good.
Hello and welcome to yet another live stream from the only YouTube channel you need to not only survive but actually survive the apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. And part of the joy of the apocalypse is all the celestial phenomenon we're about to see, and one's coming tomorrow, which has absolutely nothing. What? Uh-oh, I better get back with my buddy. I just got a message saying that Ala Toledo got cut off. Hopefully he'll call me, huh? What happened? Your cat jump up on the desk and cut you off?
Maybe. Did I interrupt anything good?
I didn't say anything yet. Let's start from scratch. Hello and welcome to another live stream from the only channel you need to not only survive the current apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. A whole lot of enjoying the upcoming apocalypse is a celestial phenomenon that we're going to get to view as part of the show. And just as a little teeny tiny taste, we're going to actually get to see an eclipse. Now, this eclipse has nothing to do with the return of Christ or raptures or any of that kind of stuff, but I think it's still important to talk about it because celestial phenomenon are such a big deal in the Bible. We're trying our best to get this right here. We're trying a few new things this week, so if the sound quality is not all that good, you can let me know, but once this is done, there's not much I can do to fix it other than try to make sure it doesn't happen again next week. So, Ala Toledo, can you see me?
Yeah, everything looks good.
Okay.
Are you going to switch it to your desktop now?
No, I don't. Well, maybe, yeah, in about a minute. But right now, it says here your webcam is currently being used by another application, and I guess that's...
Oh, yeah, that's for the Skype. Yeah, don't worry about Skype, yeah.
Okay, so we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Everything's fine.
All right, then I guess the first thing I need to do is locate this program. And that would probably be this, right? Okay. And I am going to be sharing by going into scenes and scene 2, which is going to give me that. Is that benefiting anybody? Can you see what's going on at your end, Ala Toledo?
Yeah, give it a second. We're going to have a couple second delay. So.
What I really need to do, I need to open up this folder here.
Yep, I can see it, but minimize that. Go ahead and minimize that your program there.
Just take this to the edge, or what? What am I doing?
You're gonna go.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see what's going on here. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna minimize the program, so now people can see my desktop, right?
Well, right now we're still seeing the mirror effect.
Okay, hopefully that'll.
No, that just minimized. That just made everything smaller. There, now it's good. Now it's good. But you have to go back. But everything is a little bit too small. So go back into the program and increase the size of the window.
Okay. Oh man. Hey, at least I didn't cuss when that happened. But hey, look, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, I think what's happening is at the bottom for me to get into my program, I actually have to. It's not showing, so I have to click on one of these arrows, and when I do, to expand the things that are in my menu at the bottom, it turns off Skype. So
okay, well, let's just minimize Skype.
Let me see if there's a way to do this without getting into trouble. Oh, can you see my desktop right now?
Well, right now all I see is the Skype application.
All right, and that's because there's a lag. There is a lag between me and you and the TV show, the live stream.
Okay, but you're going to have to go into the program and expand the size of the window.
I may turn you off again. Oh, wait, here we go. It's showing up. Okay, so we need to expand the size of the window. Right? And I don't know that that's going to make a difference. I think there's just a little bit of lag. And so,
no, it'll make a difference. Just make sure you make it all the way as wide as possible.
okay, well, it's all the way to the, as far as I know, it's all the way to the edge of the screen right now.
Okay, yeah, that looks good. Now minimize the program. And I have don't forget I have a little bit of lag.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, in a few seconds we'll be seeing this cool bunch of stuff I've gathered together to get ready for this. Now, normally, I said last week that I would go ahead and read a chapter of my new book every week, but we're going to skip that because I have a feeling we're going to get so busy talking about this eclipse that's coming up that we may not have time for that. And so I've put together a little bit of a slideshow by picking out just a few things I want people to look at that may at first seem to be not at all. Can you?
Everything looks good. Yep, go for it.
Okay. Well, anyway, let me get this out of the way best I can. Here's the thing that got me going today. When I turned on my computer, and I've noticed this before, and I knew what it was. This is what I see on my laptop because that's Dell's screensaver for Windows, whatever I happen to have. And I've always known from the first time I ever saw this that it was an eclipse. This is obviously some planetary disk. And this is the corona, the sun is behind it. And this line that goes right across here is what's called the ecliptic. Now, I didn't touch anything that time. Oh no. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh no, you know what? I'm showing your Skype thing every time I do this. And so, yeah, I'll probably end up taking this down or something. I don't know. Anyway, getting back to what I was doing. Hopefully we won't lose Skype again because I think if that keeps happening, I'm just going to have to cancel the show because I don't know if I can get through this without somebody to talk me through all the buttons I got to press. But anyway, here is the symbol that's on my desktop when I first start my computer. This is obviously a representation of the ecliptic, and there is the sun. And in front of that is some kind of planetary object. And if you've watched any of my videos, then you know the ecliptic is the line through which all the planets cross when they're in the sky. If you look up in the sky, the planets are always in a row. Now, they're not in a perfect row. Sometimes they're right on that line. Sometimes they're a little bit over it. Sometimes there's a little bit above it. So you'll see them kind of like in a squiggly line across the sky. And that's when you're going to see an eclipse of the moon, because normally, and I guess y'all can see my arrow, sometimes the moon is down here, and sometimes the moon is up here, and that's why we don't get an eclipse, because when the moon and the sun cross paths, they're not in alignment. All right, now, in trying to determine what this planetary disk was, I got to thinking, what is on the far side of the moon? Because the moon is in geosynchronous orbit, and so we don't see the part that's behind. This is what we see, this right here, and this is what's on the other side. So as we're going around the sun, the moon's going around us, we'll see this. Sometimes we'll see half of it, sometimes we won't see any of it, because if it's dark, then this is going to be invisible. And of course this is invisible because it's facing away from the Earth. Have I got that correct, Ala Toledo?
Yeah, I think you're doing fine.
Yeah, okay. So we'll go back and look at this other image that's on Dell's desktop when their thing. This is the part of the moon that's facing away from the Earth. That's why it doesn't look like a normal moon. Now, why we can see it is kind of illogical, because when you look at an eclipse, you don't see anything. This is just solid black. But I think maybe just for the sake of artist rendering, they've shown us what it looks like. Now right here is a highlight, which is really unnatural. Here's a highlight, and here's a highlight. So there are apparently three other objects that are putting off light between the Earth and the Moon in this particular image. And there's a shadow here, which could only be produced if there was another light source somewhere over here. I know this sounds like crazy conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat wearing stuff, but just bear with me. This is going to make sense in a little while. Now, in the Bible, there are always 3 planets that are mentioned over and over again. That's Venus, Mars, and Saturn. And it's possible that these 3 highlights would represent those. And it's also possible that this particular highlight that's causing this shadow right here is the Earth, but it could also be that 8th planet that I've spoken about before, because there are a lot of scriptures that talk about 4 different planets at one time that would be visible. So this is what may be visible as the other planets are coming into alignment at Christ's return, or even before then. So let's get off of this for a second. We'll show you why that's so important. There is a verse, and it's at Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 20, and this is talking about celestial phenomenon, whether you want to, you're willing to just accept that or not. In the King James Bible it says, "But the Lord hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day." Now that concept of being brought into or out of an iron furnace happens quite a bit in the Bible. It's associated with the end times, when it talks about the separating of the wheat from the chaff, and the chaff is thrown into the fire that never goes out. Also in the book of Revelation, it talks about the bottomless pit and the fire that never goes out. Well, that would be the sun. And of course, if you're born again, saved, washed in the blood, Christian, then that might bother you, because all Christians know this is talking about hell. But it's about an iron furnace. It's about the sun. Now, why that's important? And there's a lot of reasons why that's important. I'll show you a link to a Google search that I did. And this is the Hebrew letter Shin hand sign. Okay, this is Leonard Nimoy. Everybody knows who Leonard Nimoy is. And in this image, you see him doing his Vulcan sign, but in the background, you see this. This is actually behind him. And that's 2 people doing the Vulcan sign, and they're doing it before a 6-pointed star. And next to him is a rabbi doing the same sign. And if you notice, he's got a pyramid being formed while he's doing the Vulcan sign. Okay, over here, if you notice, the Star of David is actually 2 pyramids. Now, it's important that you understand why that is, because the Star of David really is 2 pyramids. As you can see in this image, that's the basic concept behind the Star of David. It's 2 pyramids. Now, why would there be 2 pyramids, and one facing up and one facing down? It's because our Earth is a sphere, and there are pyramids all over the Earth. This is the pyramid as it appears on our money. I think most people are familiar with that, and most people understand that this is some Illuminati, Freemason, demonic foolishness. Why would there be 2 pyramids in the Star of David? Kind of thought this was funny. This is obviously just somebody being cool, because that looks like a dollar bill. the pyramid's upside down. It's upside down and it's poked into the land, but the reality is that there are pyramids all the way around the Earth. The Earth is spherical, so you've got the pyramids of Egypt, and directly on the other side of the planet, you've got, if I'm correct, that's the Pacific Ocean. So it's possible that before the flood, the Pacific Ocean was not there. The sky window fell down, the sea of glass, the window to the heavens, and the oceans were not here on the earth then. In fact, a lot of the prophecies about Christ's returns are about the mountains and the seas going away. But anyways, that's what the deal is you've got pyramids all over the earth, so you would have to have a pyramid in the northern hemisphere, you'd have to have a pyramid in the southern hemisphere, you'd have to have a pyramid in the eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere. If you look at the words north, south, east, and west as they appear in the Bible in original Hebrew, it's basically the concepts of top, bottom, front, and back. We don't have that concept in our English language, but Israel was always considered the front of the earth. After Christ died, the Earth's axis was shifted, and from that moment on, it became Mecca, which was the front of the Earth. And we can tell that by ancient star charts, which indicate the position of the Earth relative to the North Star and the constellation Draco. So there we go. Upside down pyramid, upright pyramid, formed together into Star of David, and that's based on the fact that the pyramids in worship of Satan would be all over the earth. So you'd have some on the top, some on the bottom, some on the front, some on the back. Now if we get back to Vulcan, and this is going to involve the Hebrew language. I'm trying my best to keep all this straight. But here's Vulcan. He's the god of the forge. And that's what we're talking about. That God told the Israelites he was rescuing them from the forge. And Vulcan is pointing to the sun with a weapon of war that he has created on his anvil. There's his anvil and his hammer. And, we went there not too long ago, me and my wife. This is in Birmingham, which is probably 100 miles north of me. And I don't remember what it took to get up this elevator, but we decided we were going to go up there. Well, when you get to the top, right here, there's a place you can walk out, and the decking is that expanded steel. So when you look down, you can see the ground. It's like you're walking on glass. And when the elevator door opened, my wife started screaming, no, 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 no. And I knew where that was going, so I just reached in real quick and pressed the ground floor button, and she went down. And then, it doesn't look that high, but when she was down there waving at me, she looked like a little ant. It was hard for me to pick out who she was in the crowd. But anyways, the Ladies' Society for Decency actually, like during the 1930s, had the state put barricades to the road because Vulcan is wearing his blacksmith's apron, but that's all he's wearing. So his booty is sticking out, and the Women's League for Morality or whatever decided they didn't want people to see Vulcan's booty, so they blocked the mountain. You couldn't get up there. All right. Have we got anything coming in so far?
Well, to start off with, we have some hellos. Susie says hello from Phoenix, Arizona. The Watchman News says hello. Grandma Patty says sorry she's late, but she was pretty much on time, I would say. Simple Sister Living. Yeah, since we were messing around, yeah. Simple Sister Living says she's not looking forward to tomorrow as she lives in the totality zone in Oregon, and there are lots of foolish people hanging about.
That's right.
She doesn't expect bad things from the heavens, just mankind.
Well, my wife says, "Oh, we've got to get the dogs in." I'm like, why? Because I was on Facebook and they said if a dog looks at the eclipse, they'll go blind. And I said, why would a dog look at the eclipse? Well, you can let him out when it's not an eclipse. I said, the eclipse don't make you go blind. The sun makes you go blind. The sun's out there all the time. Dogs got good enough sense not to look at the sun. But I was reading, I went to SPCA, and their website said it might be a good idea to keep your dog in because it's not good for dogs to be around crowds, but there's no reason to block, make them wear glasses or anything. So yeah, crowds, dogs are scared of crowds, I'm scared of crowds, and Simple Sister Living is scared of crowds, I understand.
Yep. And then Marshmallow 983 says hi everybody. She just got finished, they just got finished feeding their chickens. And then Chicago Do It Yourself Now chimed in that the chickens are supposed to feed you, to which Marshmallow responded, they only do that if you care well for them. Otherwise, they own you. So you have chickens, yeah. You have your favorite pet is a chicken, isn't it?
Oh yeah. He sleeps right over my bed. I sometime we'll get in a fight where I have to grab him and physically move him down because I don't like chickens' booties right over my face when I'm trying to sleep. But other than that, we get along great. In fact, if he may come in, sometimes when it gets dark, he don't go straight to the roost. He'll come in here and jump on my lap. So, my wife usually, if I do the podcast, she'll say, "Well, let me put the dog out and let me put the chicken out," and that way we don't have any of that going on.
A couple other people checking in. Sleepy Girls saying she's here, super Super 68 is here. Let's see who else signed in. And then the conversation shifted over to the eclipses of the past. So Matt Smith says he saw one in '79 and back in the '60s sometimes, which Chicago Do It Yourself now says probably '62 since he saw a partial in Wisconsin. Does that ring a bell? Do you remember eclipses in the past?
That's all of that's before I was born.
Oh, right. That was around the time of the flood, I think.
Yeah, right. I was yeah, that's before my time, Sonny.
Then Matt Smith says, "Don't panic, people. It's just an eclipse, but I do expect earthquakes." To which Watchman News says, "Yeah, he's interested to see the effects on the magnetosphere." So I don't know. I guess we'll see something. And then Chicago Do It Yourself says he's worried about earthquakes and that people should check Suspicious Observer on YouTube.
Oh, I live in a swamp. We ain't had an earthquake around here for a while. I think you got to be on solid ground. We might get a squish, but we won't get a shake.
And then shifting over to the pyramids, Grandma Patty says, "As above, so below." When you were talking about the interlinked triangles.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's right. That's exactly right. So it's the pyramids of the heavens, the pyramids on either side of the earth. Now, pyramid, we're going to get more into it, I think. It is the Trinity of all religions. All religions say that they don't worship a Trinity, but they all do. In one way or the other, it's always the economic system, the political system, and the religious systems that keep civilization going. Whether you call it a Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, Osiris, Isis, and Horus. What are the other ones? Hera and Jupiter and Hercules. All ancient religions, all modern religions are based on the Trinity. So that pyramid is the Trinity, and the upside down and right side up is a pyramid all over the earth.
Yep, and so the Watchman News says pyramids went every 90 degrees with the Jewish seal, sign of David or whatever it is.
Yeah, where is that thing at? If we get back to this, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to look at in this. In fact, if you look at this is the symbol that Mr. Vulcan here is supposed to be doing. And by the way, that's why we went to the god Vulcan. The god Vulcan came from the planet Vulcan. This is a symbol of Vulcan, and this is the. Seemed like I was trying to remember the Shah or Shemesh or whatever it's called. It's the letter S. You'd think it's a letter W. It kind of looks like a W, but it's really the letter S, and that's the symbol for it. And if you look in here, see, like all these rabbi guys are doing this stuff. It's their thing. There's that. Oh, here's Uhura, and some other guy. Must be real patriotic. He's got an American flag in his house. Yeah, even look at this stuff. I mean, these are some of the guys that are involved in this weird stuff, So, but that's important. It's important that we understand why that's such a big deal. So we'll get back into this this group of pictures I want to show you. This right here is basically what an eclipse is. You won't see this because this was taken with a chronograph. Nobody has that. But the moon will act as our chronograph. A chronograph is basically like a piece of glass with a metal disc stuck on it. And it's in a machine that takes pictures. So that's the corona. That's why they call it a coronograph. And the corona, the Latin word corona, means the rays that come out from the sun, but it also means crown, and we're going to see why that's important. So if we come over here and we look at the crown of Egypt, Osiris is the sun god, just in case you don't know that. So here's the hieroglyphs, right? And there is this crown. That is the letter S in Egyptian, and over here it says the sun. But if we look, here's the transition, and here is the letter S in Hebrew, which looks like a W. Now, why that's important for our discussion, if we go back to the Dell computer symbol, if you look, it's D with the E laying at an odd angle and LL. So here's the moon. Behind that is Shemesh, right? Shemesh is the sun, and Shemesh has an S in it, and this is what a Hebrew S looks like. But this is an English E, and the word for earth in Hebrew is eretz, E-R-E-T-S, eretz. Now, if you look at the original Hebrew letter, it's not an E, I think it's the aleph, which is the bull. So the L not being at the right angle is showing like a conjunction between the earth and the sun being formed by the moon. Now, we're making connections here, and I hope you can keep all this straight, because every bit of this involves Shemesh, the god, and this is a Shemesh disk. This is Sumerian. And why is this important? Well, on the top of your Christmas tree is usually a star that looks like this. And that's where that comes from. The topper for a Christmas tree, that star is the god Shemesh. It's the sun god, but it's not really the sun god. This is actually a representation of a multiple celestial objects crossing paths at the same time. So just like the earth and the moon and the sun in a straight line causes this regular solar eclipse, prior to the flood, these kind of things happened all the time. And this is a representation. If you notice this disc here, it's like a little disc and another disc and another disc, and then there's this four-sided star. A four-sided star is what people would see when they went to the Festival of Lights. This would have been around the pyramid. It's part of Mithraism, which is Saturn worship of the Romans. And supposedly their eclipses were a whole lot more dramatic than the eclipses we have today. I mean, we just have one disk that goes between us and the sun, but this is multiple disks. And this image is associated with Mithraism and Vulcan and Jupiter and Saturn, and likely the reason that we have this weird four-sided thing is because the rings around Saturn, they're water, just like the water that used to be around our Earth. And according to the Bible, there are verses that speak of multiple rakia. Rakia in our Bibles is translated as, the flat earthers say that the rakia is the dome, because rakia in the King James is firmament. And when the Bible talks about the waters beneath the firmament and the waters above the firmament, it's talking about the flood. It's talking about how right before Noah built the ark, that the firmament collapsed, or at least the waters above the firmament collapsed, and that's what it means, is that space between the earth and that water shield. Well, in the book of Ezekiel, I think it starts out by talking about Ezekiel saw the wheel, and it was wheels within wheels. Well, that's the planets. The wheels are the planets' orbits around the sun. The wheels within wheels are the moon circling the planets, and then the wheels within wheels would be the constellations within the ecliptic, which are always going around. So it's the inside of that, Ezekiel saw what he's called four living creatures, and there's quite a few verses in the Bible that speak of living creatures when it's talking about planets. So these living creatures, it says, were within a rakia. They were in rakias. Each one had its own rakia. That's its own firmament. And that word is not used anywhere in the Bible except in describing the space between the earth and the ice shield, or the space within which the planets traveled. And we know that that's the case because it talks about birds flying in the rakia. So they're not flying in the ice shield or the dome. They're flying in the space between the earth and the dome. Let me get out of this for a second and show you some other connections here. Each of the planets in the Bible is spoken of, or each of the planets in our solar system is spoken of in the Bible. And I wanted to show you, well, here's the first one we're going to talk about, is the sun itself. And there it is, Shemesh, and these letters are called the Shem, I think. That you notice the Shemesh, it begins with an S and it ends with an S, these two W things, because the sun is the Shemesh. The Shemesh God is S, it's two S's, it's two crowns. And like even planets that you don't think about, like Dagon. We'll look at Dagon. I think you got something here. Dagon. Dagon means a fish. You know, that Dagon god ends up in Greek and Roman culture as Poseidon or as Neptune, and so we have a planet Neptune. So when you hear verses about Dagon, it's about the planet Neptune. So let's look at some of them here. This is 1 Samuel chapter 5 and verse 2. And everything about the ark, and it doesn't matter if it's the ark of the covenant or the ark that Noah put his animals in, it's always about the earth, the place that was used to preserve God's law, and the place that was used to preserve life was the ark, the earth. So when the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon. The house of Dagon being the house within which the planet Neptune would have resided. And when I say the house, I mean the astrological symbol of Dagon. And they set it by Dagon. And that's a weird story that's going to end up in a future video about how the ark was moved there, and then it was moved out of the house of Dagon, and it was placed on the threshing floor. And so David bought the threshing floor in order to build the temple. And that's where the Temple Mount is today, is on the threshing floor after being brought out of the house of Dagon. Okay, another god. We already did Neptune, Dagon.
Hey, one thing, Henry, is Simple Sister Living says the Dagon fish god thing was debunked.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, apparently
that it's not a fish.
I don't know. It's maybe there's no connection or something.
Well, here's something that I've seen before, is that Dagon, the god Dagon, had a head that was shaped like a fish, or he had a head of a man and the hands of a man and the body of a fish or the tail of a fish. But I've seen him where he looks like he's wearing a Pope hat, and that Pope hat has eyes on it like a fish, and that's where the Pope gets his. It's called a mitre. A mitre is supposed to be a representation of Dagon. And so anyway.
Well, what she's saying is that she says that Dagon was never an actual fish god, and somehow apparently she means that it got associated falsely to fish. Maybe it was something else.
Hey, you know what? Here's what we can do right now, just to try to check it out. And this will help y'all to understand how I do my research. Okay, where was he? Oh, I guess this is it. Okay, Dagon. If we go here and we see that this word is from the root word, which is Hebrew number 1709 in Strong's, we click on that. It'll take us over here to dog, which is almost the same. Let's go back and see. Dag-on, and then there's dag. So the word dag means a fish, perhaps rather as a timid instead, or in the sense of squirming. You know that little fish thing that people put on their bumper sticker, and it says Jesus in it, or Christ, or something like that?
Oh, right, like the Pisces or something.
Yeah, that's right. That is it's Vesica Pisces. It's the symbol of Dagon. It's supposed to be the symbol of Dagon. But let's look at this now, because here's another thing we can do. If we're looking at Dagon, we can go down a little bit. And where is it? Strong's previous word. This is the word that comes right before Dagon, Daga, which means a primitive root to move rapidly, used only as a denominative form to spawn, to become numerous and grow. So once again, similar to a fish. If we go forward to the next word in alphanumeric order, we get to Dagal, and it means to look or behold, to carry a banner or standard, set up banner to standard, set up standard in battle. So probably not related there. But that's the way I do a lot of research, is just see what word is before it, which one is after it, which one it supposedly is formed from, and just see And she might look now. This person may be right, because I have found things in the Hebrew that when you compare them to the Egyptian and the Babylonian and the Phoenician, you can see that there's no connection between the word as described by Strong's and the way those words in Egyptian and Babylonian and Persian or whatever are described. And it just would be odd if you would have a whole bunch of different peoples living in one small area of the earth, and all of them have a word in their language that is similar, and yet the one that's in Strong's is different. So sometimes it is wrong. But I'm not gonna. It could. I mean, I'll look this up later if I get around to it, and I may say something about it next week. But my research takes hours and hours, and we're going to be off of here in a half an hour. So
yeah. Well, Grandma Patty makes a comment that a video of Faces of Culture some years back showed an African tribe that celebrates the festival of the Dagon god.
That's probably, all this stuff. It's the more things change, the more they stay the same. And all of these gods, irregardless. So you can go. I guarantee, if you went into Peru and did some research into all their gods, they've got a god of the sea or a god of fish or something like that. And here's another one. This is a good one. If you want to talk about planets, okay, Uranus, the god of Uranus. And if we go to that here in Hebrew, let's see. This is in Revelation, because this is a Greek word. It's not Revelation 16:11. So if we look at this, it says, "And they blasphemed the God of heaven." Well, that God of heaven is Theos Uranos, because that's where we get our word heaven in Greek, is Uranus. That's why we have a planet Uranus. It's way out into deep space. It's not the farthest out. The one that's farthest out is actually Neptune, or planet Neptune, planet Poseidon, planet Dagon. But that's it's just another connection. And also, I was going to look up like Mercury. Mercury, when I think it was Paul and Barnabas were preaching, and somebody in the crowd yelled out, "It's Mercurius," which is the Greek word for Mercury. And they all started bowing down. And so Paul and Barnabas were ripping their clothes and saying, "Please, don't do this. We're just men like you." So they were accused of being the planet Mercury, or the god Mercury. And they didn't like that. Okay, let's...
Oh, a couple other, while you're scrolling around, a couple other hellos. Matt Smith says hello from Michigan. Tony Lynn says hello from North Carolina. Dan Saber says hello all. Jeremy Phillips says, wow, great information. I've never seen this before, thanks. KNFX 787 says hello, brother. Sorry I'm late. Moving on 04 says, I made it late as always. I know I missed some good stuff.
Hey, you can't be late for something that's recorded on the internet.
Going back to the eclipse information, Marshmallow says, I'm about an hour from Greenville, South Carolina. Looks like that's on the line of the totality, he means. Then Trevor Williams says he's having a softball practice in California during the eclipse. Or is that smart? Sun rays are all the same. A lot of looking up at fly balls, I'm sure.
Hey, as long as somebody knows where the light switch is, y'all will be okay. But you ain't gonna play without lights, because it's gonna get dark.
Then Grandma Patty says, I plan on watching with a hole in a paper plate over another paper plate.
Yeah, that's I don't know what I'm gonna do. I went out and got my welding glasses, and I set them on the table, and I kept telling people, Mama, I says I'm gonna clean my welding goggles, but I don't know what kind of plate I got in it, because you got all different lenses. And I just went out right a little while ago and put that thing on and looked up at the sun, and I couldn't see for about 5 minutes. So apparently I got a brazen lens in there. And I knew I did as soon as I looked up, because back when I was welding, you look up at the sun and with welding goggles on, real for like MIG welding, arc welding, and all you see is a perfectly clear disc. When I looked through these things, it looked like the sun, just a little bit darker. And I had tears coming out of my eyes. I can't make my mama look through that. I got to go find. Hopefully that all the hardware stores ain't sold out in the morning. I'll go grab it.
There is some libraries that are handing them out.
Yeah,
find a library.
I just got to find one that still has some in stock, because they didn't give them a million of these things, and they made announcements on the radio and in the newspaper, so I may be too late. But I can see myself going up to the hardware store and them telling me, we sold out 3 days ago.
Well, let's see. Continuing with the eclipse, Matt Smith, he laughs out loud and says, who's going to save the lions and tigers and bears from the eclipse? That's in reference to your dog looking up at the sun. Yeah.
The day after, it'd be like everybody. There was a movie on a while back where something happened and everybody looked out their window to see what it was, and the whole planet was blinded. And I remember when I was watching that, and it was the end of the world movie, right? And I said, well, why would the people on the other side of the planet be blinded? It's only daytime over there. And that was the premise, is that everybody looked up at the same time and they saw whatever phenomenon happened in front of them, and the whole planet went blind. I said, whoever wrote this script didn't think this through.
And then finally on the eclipse topic, Chicago Do-It-Yourself Now says, back in the old days, we used a piece of glass which was smoked with a candle. Flame, the smoke from a candle, or a couple of film negatives.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's enough or not. I don't know, but if he used to do it.
Here's the deal: is like really all you need is sunglasses, but they have to be really dark sunglasses. So I think, and you know what the bad thing is, if you have like 5 or 6 pairs of sunglasses, you break all the legs off of them and stack them up. You're not worrying about dark anymore. Now it's just like fingerprints and scratches. You can't see nothing, because that was my next thing. I got these glasses that you're supposed to wear home from the doctor because of my eyes. I got all these things I got to get done with my eyes, and so I put those on and I put my welding goggles over it. I couldn't see anything then. Everything was so distorted. But if we get back here, look at Vulcan, old god Vulcan, which is the god of the furnace, the god of the sun, furnace-wise anyway. Here's his, according to Hyginus Fabulae, the sons of Vulcan are Philemon, Cecrops, Erichthonius, Coronetus, Cercion, Philotus, and Finther. There's 7 sons. He had 7 sons. And in the Bible, there's always 7 sons or 7 wise men, 7 eunuchs, and it's always, if you read the descriptions, like Philemon, well, that's means brotherly love, but all of the planets are associated with the definitions of these words. Now this is Latin, I think, or Roman, so I don't even know how to look up Roman words or Latin words. I can look up Greek, I can look up Hebrew, I can look up some Egyptian, Babylonian stuff, but I don't really have that. I guess I could look up Latin if this is Latin, but I had like 10 minutes before the show to look at it. But I do know this, and a lot of it sounds like this. This is the book of Revelation, the 7 churches. Remember, they had 7 churches, and so Jesus gives the angel a message, the angel gives John a message, and he tells them, give to each of the 7 congregations a message, and it's the same thing. Laodiceans, Philadelphia, Sardis, Thyatira, Pergamos, Smyrna, and Ephesus. And so it's probably the same. If we were to take these words and look up the definitions of them, they're probably the same definition. In fact, I know some of them were looking really like Sardis, Pergamos, and Philadelphia. Kind of look like they are the same words as what's over. Look at these. Yeah, see, there's Philemon. So the words are similar. It's the 7 sons of Vulcan. So Vulcan is the sun god. He's the forge, the blacksmith, and we as a people are to be rescued out of the forge. There's nothing. If you look up in the Bible, there are rescues out of the forge that take place a few times, but nowhere in the Bible does it say that Egypt is a forge. So there's more being that we're supposed to get more out of this lesson than what's there. I don't see anything else up here to share. But here's something. Yeah, we were talking about this, not today, but we were talking about this at some time in the past. The E that's kind of crooked because it stands for Eretz and Shemesh, the sun and the earth. That's why it's halfway an E and it's halfway the Shem. And you said that's the symbol for Enron as well.
Yeah, it can't be a coincidence.
Yeah. So why are so many people interested in having a crooked E in their symbolism? All right. I guess right now what I'd like to do is get this thing pointed at me, and then maybe we could answer some questions.
Well, you're figuring that out. So just click on scene 1 then. Go back to scene 1.
Yeah, there I am. Let me adjust this thingamajig. I should have dug in my nose or something while I didn't have the camera pointed at me. Now I'm stuck. Yeah, all right. So,
are you able to kick up? Can you kick up your volume a little bit? Bring it back up to 60 or 70. You're getting a little bit low there, saying.
Yeah. What did I do? I had to go into the settings for the sound.
The sound. Yep. Make sure it's up around 60 or 70.
We do this. This is people don't realize just how much we struggle to figure out all these little. This thing is showing its volume on my webcam microphone too, which is impossible because I know it ain't. It's on a USB. Okay, here's the front mic, and here's levels, and yep, it's made. I guess I must have hollered or something while we were doing this, and everybody, just so everybody can see. Oh, you can't see that. We're pointed.
There, okay. Now. So okay, just bring it up. Next thing, next comment comes from Chicago Do It Yourself. This was back when you were talking about, I think, the different aspects of the different planets covering each other and the water shield. And he brings up Purple Dawn theory and Saturn, a primordial sun, all antediluvian. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, say it one more time. Well,
Purple Dawn theory. Have you heard of Purple Dawn theory before?
Never heard of it, but it sounds kind of like something that would have been antediluvian, or because what did
It was just a couple comments he was bringing up, so I'm not sure what it was in reference to. He just brought up the name.
I haven't, since I've never heard of. Oh, by the way, I hope y'all like my new glasses. That's the VA sent those to me today. I'm kind of excited to be able to see again, but. Yeah, when Noah came out of the ark, the first thing God did is said, "Well, look, I'm putting my rainbow into the cloud," as if the rainbow had existed somewhere else before God put it in the cloud, and that was to indicate that there's no more water can come down because all the water's on the earth. So, in the past when we were under a dome, we could make a rainbow out on the moon, and I think maybe it was. Who was it? I can't remember, and they're listening, I'm sure. But somebody sent me information, said at the jewelers, you've got all of those same stones that would have been in Aaron's breastplate or in the foundation stones of New Jerusalem or whatever. But the moonstone is different. The moonstone is some kind of piece of jewelry that's rainbow colored. It's all different colors of the rainbow in it. And so it's all part of that thing, apparently the demons that rule the world are able to put these ideas into people's heads, or maybe we're just all interconnected. We have this kind of genetic memory.
Yeah. Let's see. The next question. Just a quick hello from Douglas Aliff says hello from Las Vegas, but Trevor Williams says, "Hey, sustenance. Do you celebrate all traditional holidays today?"
Yeah, I don't celebrate it. I mean, but here's the deal. It's like you can say yes because if I'm sitting in my house trying to watch TV with the TV turned way up because I can't hear over the July 4th fireworks. Yeah, that's how I celebrate. I turn my TV up louder so that fireworks don't bother me. When I was working, I was Jehovah's Witness for years, and on Christmas I'd go look at the schedule. If I was off, I'd stay home. Right. And somebody said, "Did you stay home for Christmas?" I was like, let me see. Yeah. Oh, so you do celebrate. I'm like, I'm not on the schedule. Am I supposed to come in here when I'm and just work for free as some kind of a sacrifice to my God? I mean, we have, but on the next level, there's my wife celebrates, so there's going to be a Christmas tree, like. In a couple of months, it'll be sitting right there in the sustenance and covering home office. But no, I don't like give people gifts or anything. I don't call people and tell them Merry Christmas or.
Grandma Patty says, asks if you remember when the Jehovah's Witnesses taught about blindness going on in South America from the hole in the ozone layer.
No, that was before my time or after, because I've never heard that before.
Going back to the eclipse, the Watchman News says his weather is calling for rain tomorrow. Thanks, Obama. And he laughs out loud. Then Grandma Patty says she's near Lake Erie, south of the Ohio River. We'll get 90% chance of rain. What's the weather like going to be where you're at?
I did look at it, So that's another holiday I celebrate. I celebrate the eclipse. But it was like 15% chance of rain. And I don't even care if it's raining. I just care if it's cloudy. So that's one of the things. I was looking at, neighboring cities like New Orleans, Mobile, Jackson. Because, it wouldn't be a big deal for me to load up my dog, go over to Grandma, Mama's house and leave the dog there. Me and my wife and my mama go up. We could drive 100 miles to look at it if we had to. If 100 miles would take us out from under the cloud cover. And it would be worth it. Plus my mama drives. So I would still not have to do any long distance driving.
Can FX 787 says he plans on watching through his welding shield. And then Moving On 04 says she taught her kids old school how to watch the eclipse with 3 or 4 layers of negatives over a slot.
This is brought up again. Somebody told me that before we even did this live stream. Somebody had said something about looking through. Nobody has photographic negatives anymore because everything's digital. I've got these, but I got the wrong lens in it. This is like for brazing or something. I don't even know why I got this stuff. I've got my tanks back there, my oxygen and acetylene tanks are probably like 90% full or something because I had no business owning them. I should have just brought all my welding and brazing to some. I've had MIG machines and I've had regular arc welders up here. And so this is all I got left, to go do whatever I'm going to do. I still have my torches. I've got several set of torches in there.
The Watchman News says that he made a video on his channel showing how to make a simple eclipse viewing box. And then, let's see.
That's where you got the box with the hole in it, and you look in the box, and you can see the...
coming through, yeah. Yeah,
so true. That way you're not even looking at it. You got your back to it while you're doing it. That's the guy. I told you, me and you have to get interviewed by him, and maybe once this eclipse thing kind of blows over, we can have enough spare time to do that.
Yeah, and then he asked if maybe you can put a link to his video in the description once this is done. So I'll send you that link. Let's see. Next is Kitch Cool 81 says if everything recorded in the Bible was pre-enactment for future events, could the earth have acted as an ark? When Jehovah changed everything, soon everything will go back to its correct dwelling place. Planets and water and such.
Well,
does that make sense to you?
Yeah, if you look at I'm doing this thing now, the Bible Code, which is about the series of numbers that show up over and over and over and again in the Bible, and it's always 7s, it's always 12s, and there's a lot of other stuff that's in there too, but the 7s are always the planets, and the 12s are always the constellations within which the planets travel, right? But there aren't 7 planets, there's 8, because the Earth is a planet. But in every single story about 7 of something, there's always a daddy, and the daddy is always the Earth. It's like Job had 7 sons, but Job himself was the earth. And if you look at the description of Job, it says he was like the richest man from the Orient or something. And if we look at it in Hebrew, that's not what it says. He stood before the sun, facing the sun, and he was upright and righteous. And that upright is not like he was a good guy. It's upright like he was straight up and down. So that's describing the eclipse, or it's describing the earth through an equinox when the poles are directly at 90 degrees to the sun. So Job was the son, he was the daddy, right? And then it says that near the end of the story, you have this 8th character that enters the picture, named Elihu. Well, it's the same thing with choosing King David. You've got 7 sons, but it's Jesse's the daddy. And then Jesse says, well, I have an 8th son who's going to come, and he's too young. So it's the newest guy, right? It comes out over and over and over again. You have these 7s, then you have the daddy, which is the earth, and then you have an 8th one that shows up at the end. It just keeps on happening. Well, it seems to me that what that is telling us is that the Earth was the first planet that was formed, and then the other planets were formed. Whether they are, and they obviously were not on the same day, because it says at the very beginning that on day 1 God created the heavens and the earth, but then on day 4 He created the Astarte, or the whatever the Hebrew word was for that. So that's the planets. So the 7 planets were created on day 4, which would make Earth like the daddy. So it's very possible that whatever was supposed to be put on those planets, say we had plant life, animal life, whatever, that those things would have been created on the Earth for distribution later on. I know this sounds crazy, but I mean, why would He create all these planets and then only one of them have life? And we apparently the 8th planet is going to have life, because it's called green in the Bible, and it's called the Earth, the twin of the Earth. So why would we have an Earth that has a twin that's dead like the moon? And we really don't know. I don't look through a telescope. All I see is dots out there anyway. Scientists say that those planets are dead, and to me, I guess they are. I don't know. I haven't been there, but it seems reasonable. And also, they say there's water on all of these planets, which means that probably at one time they were under a dome, and they were being prepared for life forms, or they had life forms on them. And not only that, but all the scriptures in the Bible about the restoration of our earth speak of restoring the earth to a paradise for man. And there are creatures that live on this earth that if you put them in a paradise for man, they'll freeze to death. And there's other creatures on this earth, if you put them in a paradise for man, they'll die from exposure to heat. So, like polar bears, what would a polar bear do in a human paradise? So perhaps these other species, that can take a little bit more cold would be on a planet farther from the earth, farther from the sun. Ones that can take a little more heat be closer to the sun. I'm just throwing that out there. That is not scriptural. But the scriptures do talk about the creation of our solar system as, the same way it talks about the creation of the earth.
Grandma Patty brings up, in reference to that unusual sideways or falling over E symbol that we were talking about with the Dell and Enron. She says that's M for Masonic, and the E is really an M.
Hey, look, I guarantee you that if we looked into it deep enough, we'd find out that, the W is for something, witchcraft. The Masons, the witches, the sun, and the earth.
Back to the topic of holidays, Chicago Do-It-Yourself jokes that he only celebrates his wife's birthday. It's the only one that matters. And then Sleepy Girl comments, she wants to give up all these holidays, but it's going to be hard to do with her family.
I don't fight nobody. My mama's by herself. For years and years, Mama and Daddy would do something together, and sometimes we would go over there, and sometimes they'd come over here, but we didn't. I tried to make it a point of letting them know that I'm not celebrating a holiday. If you want me to come over there and eat, and everybody has to put on a red, white, and blue hat or something, yeah, okay, I'll do that if it keep you from crying. But in reality, I try to do special things with my mom, and it doesn't have to be on Christmas. On Mother's Day, I'll tell her Happy Mother's Day, and she's got a friend that I'm scared to death of who will call my house and say, "Today is your mother's birthday." Oh, well, thank you. And I better hear from your mom that you called her. Okay. So, but other than that, like I said, we have a Christmas tree, and if it was just me by myself, if my mama was to die and my wife was to die, you would never hear anything about holidays out of this household again. I would never, I'll do it to make other people happy. I'm not interested in it.
Grandma Patty says instead of the W being for witchcraft, W is for woman, and that represents Eve.
Could be. So. Hey, look at the fours. If you look at the fours that are always in there, okay, it's always like Saturn, Mars, and Venus. That's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's Osiris, Isis, and Horus. And when you have 4 together, like when Ezekiel saw the wheel, it says Ezekiel saw the wheel, and there were 4 living creatures, one with the head of an eagle, head of a bull, head of a lion, and the other one with the head of a cherub. Well, later on, we see the same four again, and it's the head of an eagle, head of a lion, head of a bull, and the head of a human. So a human and a cherub. For whatever reason, the Bible is making that association. And obviously, there are humans that have been possessed by wicked angels. Cherubs are not wicked angels. It's very possible that there is supposed to be a connection between humans and angels, similar to possession, but just not with the wicked angels. These wicked angels that make conquest the most important thing are not like the righteous angels who are a part of the greater whole. And so, we've got it might be woman, the Masons, the woman, and the sun, and the what was the other, the earth. Could be, it's any kind of, just like with red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue is the color of the Trinity. It's the color of the Hebrew Trinity, the Christian Trinity, the Western world's Trinity, the Eastern. There's always red, white, and blue everywhere. The Buddha. It's like Buddha's father wanted him to remain a king and not a religious leader, but he wanted to be a religious leader. And so his father built him a palace, and around the palace he put 3 ponds, and he filled each pond with lotuses, so that he had red lotus flowers, white lotus flowers, and blue lotus flowers around his pond. It's the same thing, and it's probably, I guess I mentioned this last week because I know I've got a couple of comments from people saying, well, perhaps that's Jupiter and Mars, and and if you look, who knows? If it was the moons of the Earth, it could be any of the moons that are out there. I think there's over 200 moons that are in our solar system that could have at one time been the Earth's moon. It's also possible that some of the planets that are out there moved in an orbit around the Earth. So it could be any red planet, white planet, blue planet.
Couple of hellos. Dave Rockwell says, hey, sustenance, and Freebird Oneification says, good to see you. He's asking if you have your air conditioning on. I'm not sure if that's the sound quality or what.
Oh, he just sees me all dressed up, and I'm in the deep south. It's 93 degrees outside right now, or it was before I came in here. So and the whole thing is we have never used air conditioning ever because we couldn't afford it. We absolutely couldn't afford it. I was getting a $150 a month electric bill even without using air conditioner heat, and it took everything I had to come up with that money. Well, we got a letter from a lawyer a while back saying that they were going to sue the power company. And I was like, oh no, man, there goes my money, because they're going to sue the power company. The power company is going to jack up my rates. Well, they sued the power company, and I didn't have an electric bill for a long time. And then when we got electric bill, it was only $90. It's like, how did we go from $150 to $90? Well, it stayed at $90, so we started using air conditioner. Plus, I got that camera right there. Anything that's electronic out here in the swamp is susceptible to moisture, and we have wrecked so much electronics out here by not having an air-conditioned house in the summer. Humidity is 100%. And so we've been testing the waters for 3 months now, and it looks like we can run our air conditioner now and maintain this stuff. Plus, it's like all my appliances after the hurricane, we got all of our appliances replaced. They weren't all new. We got a new washer and a dryer and a new microwave. Everything else we got from, thrift stores or whatever. And it's only been 10 years, and those things have rusted into the ground. So it's time. We're starting to replace all of our appliances again. We feel like it's probably cheaper to run the air conditioner than to have our washing machine turn into a really dangerous pile of sharp metal, because that's what happens when it rusts. My refrigerator's got holes in the door that if you push the door with your hand, you can cut yourself on the rust holes. And on top of that, it's once you get holes in your refrigerator, then the insulation quality goes, and then refrigerator's got to run 24/7 because there's no insulation. So, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and we feel like we need to have air conditioner on now. There's nothing keeping us from having it on. So,
Richard Haley asks about some numbers, kind of different topic here. He says, you've previously explained the significance of the numbers 12 and 7 in the biblical context. What is the significance of the number 40? For example, 40 years in the desert, 40 years of fasting, etc.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. And I did a thing called, you can go back and look it up. I'll try to remember to put a link. You know, I always say I'm going to put links. When I get done and this is over and I say goodbye and love you, go to the video when it comes back on and remind me of some of these links and things, because I won't remember. Because all those comments that are being made right now, as soon as this is over, they're going to disappear. I won't see them. But the number 40 ends up being a fasting number. So you've got this fast, 40 days of fast when Moses went up on top of Mount Sinai to get that's Mount Sinai, to get the Ten Commandments. And then he came down and everybody was breaking God's law. So he broke the 10 Commandments and he went up and came back with 700 commandments. But when he went up both times, he fasted for 40 days. When Jesus went out into the desert, to be tempted by the devil, he fasted for 40 days. The Bible says very clearly, there's a couple of things in there. It says that there was going to be a fast, not a fast for food, but a fast for the Word of God. So there would be a time when we would have a 40-day cycle with no word from God. But there's also a verse that says that, remember this, that a day for God, is 1,000 years. So the whole thing is that there's time cycles. So a 7-day cycle is a yom. That's a 7-day yom. But a 24-hour cycle is a yom in that it's a day. A 24-hour day is a day, yom. What do you call it? A jubilee? A jubilee is a yom. It's 49 years. A 49-year yom. If you go back and look at all these time cycles and what that could possibly mean, according to the experts, not to me because I don't know, the Bible was completed, I don't know, what did we say before, around 69 AD. So it could have been completed at 20 AD. It could have been completed at 100 AD. Who knows? That wasn't recorded in the Bible. But we do know that it has been right around 40 yoms since that happened. So there's a jubilee, a yom of jubilees, or a 40 jubilees brings us right up to our day. So that's the cycle of fasting. And now why that 40 entered into the picture, I don't know. And I know one day it's like, well, you know what's going to happen today? I'll get off of this, I'll put all my stuff up, I'll go try to put links on the video, I'll go to sleep, and the next morning I'll wake up and I'll think about a scripture and I'll go look and so maybe next week I can tell you. But I've been struggling to figure out why that 40 is such a big deal for a long time, and I haven't got a clue. I do know that, like according to the Aztec, Incan, Mayan calendar, the Babylonian, Egyptian, Jewish calendar, that 400 years is a Baktun. But that's 400, that's not 40. So I don't know. I don't know what the relationship is.
Last couple of questions. First, KNFX787 says he just went outside and they are already chemtrailing the skies over me. And then Grandma Petty says lots of chemtrails in northern Ohio as well.
Hey, maybe they'll turn CERN on and pop the chemtrails and have an eclipse, and all the dogs will look up. Then that'd be that's a trifecta.
Okay, last question comes from SuperU68. He's wanting to know, when is the next Bible video code coming?
I think we're just going to have to do this because, this is just thing I did about Vulcan and the sun and the letter E and the letter W and the letter M and the letter S. And that's just a teeny tiny part of the Bible code thing. If I had written this, I started working on this like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I thought, I need to get something together. Let me just look up one little thing. And that turned into me messing around with this from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock. And it's pretty steady. If I was to actually make a video about this, it would take 2 weeks. Because I would be writing and rewriting and then sitting in front of the camera and then reshooting stuff I didn't like and fixing my audio and then editing and the Bible Code series could reasonably be made up of 500 of this, what we're doing right now. It's like I can't pick up, every time I pick up the Bible there's another number that fits in with the code, and it's just too overwhelming. It blows my mind. I want to get on here, like I was thinking just now, if I came on and I did a live stream every day, I could do a live stream every day that I ain't got to cut my grass or go to the doctor or go do something for mama or something like that. I promise you, do a video every day, a 1 hour video, and at the end of 100 years, I would not run out of stuff to talk about just in relation to the Bible Code series. But I am writing the book. Now, I said last week that every week I would read a new chapter, and I have written a new chapter since last week, and I did actually clean them up and take and fix all the spelling errors and fix all of the, the continuity, and I posted them to the website. So if you go to the website, which is sustenanceandcovering.com, and you get on there, there's a bunch of tabs at the top, and one of those tabs is the book. If you click on that, I've got 3 chapters posted, and so you'll see 3 text documents. If you click on either one of those, any of those, they'll bring you to a text, and you can read the next chapter in the book. And the book is basically going to be the Bible Code. I think it's going to be, probably looking at it, I'm at like page 12. I think it's going to be 250 pages, about 250 pages probably.
Well, our hour is up, but maybe you can just give some final thoughts about the eclipse, because there's several people asking what the significance is, whether they should be worried. Is there anything about it crossing the U.S., things like that. But then maybe take us out after, make your closing thoughts.
Here's the deal. If you read the Bible, read what kind of God we have. The true God, the Creator, not the God of civilization, but the God that actually can make birds and lizards. That God. When he does something significant, he doesn't just look in his almanac to see when the next eclipse is coming and then lay claim to it. That's what the God of civilization does. The Creator God, when he makes an eclipse, what he'll do is he'll take and spin the whole earth around and grab the sun and Saturn and Mars and put them all in a row and then throw them out into space if he wants. So that's a big difference. When Moses took the entire nation of Israel across the ocean, he didn't look at the weather report and say, is this a good day? Is the ocean going to dry up today? And God said, well, let me check and see if the ocean's going to dry up, I'll bring y'all out. He dried the ocean up. Like, they got to the edge and he just went poof. So this eclipse, I was talking to somebody the other day, the man that was able in our modern times to properly, accurately predict a solar eclipse was Mr. Halley. That's the guy that Halley's Comet's named after, because he found the comet. He was able to mathematically determine in advance when an eclipse was coming. Well, once he did it, the floodgates of the heavens opened up, because every astronomer on Earth was like reading about his theories and figuring this stuff out. And this is like 1790 or something he did that. So around the time of the Civil War, all of these astronomers, which there isn't much difference, all of these astronomers were able to chart out eclipses over the course of the next 100 years. About nowadays, I think they've got programs out there, computer programs, about predicting everything from lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, where Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, all of them are going to be, the angles of everything, where the constellations are moving, and they can do that for probably 100,000 years into the future, because their instruments have gotten that accurate and their calculations are that accurate. That's not an act of God. This eclipse means nothing. What is significant about it is that 90% of the planet believes in some stupid religion, and that's every religion from Roman Catholicism to science. And so those people are easy to stir up. I mean, it don't take nothing. We've got a history of 40-something odd lawyers, and they put one for a president, and suddenly they put a black lawyer in there. And, the world just started crumbling away, and then they decided, oh, well, we better replace him with another white one. And a white guy isn't a lawyer, he's a businessman. So the world's crumbling away again. It doesn't take much to set these idiots off. Everything's exactly the same as it was yesterday, except people's opinions. And so what effect will the eclipse have on that? I don't know. But If you continue to watch my videos, watch the live stream, listen to the podcast, you can be prepared. And as always, if you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.